What's going on, everyone? Windbound is a survival game that incorporates its own story mode into it. You essentially start the story by traveling with a group on the water that gets caught in a storm. From there, you get dropped onto an island where you begin the campaign. Now, there are 5 chapters overall that you can play as fast or as slow as you want. In order to move from chapter to chapter, you have to find these 3 temples in each chapter to be able to get the keys to go through the passage into the next chapter. On the surface, that's it. That's the game. But of course, you can dive a little bit deeper into this one. So, you have either a survival mode or story mode, where the only difference is how much loot you can restart with when you die and where you restart after you die. In the story mode, you just restart from the beginning of the chapter you are currently on. In survival mode, you restart all the way at the beginning of chapter 1. So essentially, if you get all the way to chapter 5 and then die, you go all the way back to the beginning and lose all your progress. You just get to keep the stuff that you have on you at the moment. When you dive a bit deeper and really explore the area provided to you, that's when the game begins to really show its genius and you begin to have more fun. Alright, so let's talk about the boats and sailing in general. In this game, you're going to spend a lot of time sailing from island to island on the boat that you craft. We will get into what you can do with crafting a little later. So with the boats, you can craft a grass, bamboo, or wooden boat. Obviously the grass is going to be the weakest, wooden is going to be the strongest. Now, the game tells you that the wooden boat will be heavier and slower than the bamboo, and the bamboo will be heavier and slower than the grass. To be honest, I didn't find much of a difference going from each type of boat, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. These are really going to help you if you start running into rocks or you're getting attacked by things in the ocean. That's where you're going to want the wooden boat over the grass boat. Now, there are essentially 2 types of boats you can create. The first one you can create is a canoe. This boat is essentially a starter boat, no matter what material you use to craft it. The second is where you essentially combine a deck and 2 holes, as they call it in the game. This boat is more advanced, and here's why. This boat, at least initially, requires more skill while sailing so that you don't fall over. I have tried to go overboard with the canoe, and no matter how much I try, how much wind is against me, I just can't do it. So there's one little factor for you. This boat with the deck and holes, unlike the canoe to my knowledge, can be extended and expanded upon to make a massive boat. And obviously this will make it a lot harder for you to go overboard. So this is what you're going to want to try to do when trying to make this boat. This boat is also much faster than the canoe and can carry more items as well. Essentially, the biggest things you want to take away from this, if you're trying to get through the campaign quickly, the canoe is going to do you just fine. You're not going to have any problems with it. If you want to take your time and explore more and get there faster, you're going to want to take the deck and multiple holes boat that you can create. As far as sailing goes, I actually like it. It's not like you can just sail straight without any consequences. The wind plays a big part in how well you can move from place to place, which can be a good and a bad thing. With the wind in your favor, traveling from island to island could be quick and painless. With the wind not in your favor, it could be much harder. Just so I'm clear, it isn't impossible to go to an island that has the wind going against you, but it does make it much harder, and there are obviously some clear obstacles. These kind of situations often happen in the later chapters and can be extremely frustrating, and I will say it is probably the worst part about this game. Throughout the chapters, I've spent several minutes, sometimes up to 20, going against the wind looking for an island that has the last tower that I need to move on to the next chapter. Now, other than that, the sailing does force you to pay attention and makes it a bit less boring than it otherwise would be moving from island to island. Alright, let's talk about the physical islands. There are a handful of islands that can offer different materials and different animals to fight. But that is really it. There are only a few, and it isn't like these are big islands with a lot of exploring and a lot of stuff to uncover. These are essentially small islands that can provide certain resources, but ultimately become somewhat of a bummer when you land at an island that doesn't have the tower that you need to move on. And this is really due to the islands not having a ton to offer to the story as well. and they don't really act as a spot to adventure in and uncover new things either. I would say this is a little bit more of a disappointing factor to the storyline. Going from island to island, you really are only looking for the towers unless you are trying to explore the crafting system. If you're not really looking to explore the crafting system extensively, then traveling from island to island and seeing what they have is not a whole lot of fun and becomes a little bit of a bummer because there really isn't that much to explore. So speaking of the crafting system, as long as you don't just try to finish it as soon as possible, is where you will spend the majority of your time exploring. Often you will explore the islands, but the materials you use to craft and what you can craft with those materials will send you on your exploration to find out. Right away, let's just say the crafting system is more for fun, to see what you can make rather than a necessity to actually beat the game. You can very well beat the game with just a basic boat and crafting little to no weapons or gear. And you could get by just eating berries and mushrooms if you really wanted to. Besides that though, the crafting does have a lot more to offer, and the more animals or monsters that you kill, the more you will be able to make yourself as far as gear and weapons. Of course, I don't want to spoil too much for you. Just know that the crafting system kind of works in levels like this. You want to make a bag, but to make a bag you need skin. To get skin, you need to kill an animal. To kill an animal, you need a weapon. To craft a weapon, you need wood, bones, rocks, stuff like that. Now, to make the skin into a bag, you also need silk. So you need to go attack those animals that have silk. Then to use the silk and the skin to make a bag, you need to create a fire. So what do you need? You need more sticks. And then you need more rocks. And then you're able to create it, and then you will have your bag. And then eventually you will want a bigger bag or a different bag, so you will want to go get those materials again or get different materials and kind of do that same process all over again. This obviously will send you to more islands than the actual story will, because there really are only 3 temples that you need to find, and there are a few more islands than that as far as I can tell, which obviously means that you will travel to more islands because you're trying to explore the crafting system. So, does this game go hard or does this game go home? This game ultimately sits on the fence, and for that reason is a little disappointing based on the trailers and what the game could have been. For this game, I'm giving it a 70%, so just about average. I was thinking about giving it a 65, but the graphics are extremely good, so I bumped it up to a 70. Now, it does do many things right as far as the survival aspect and the exploration that you can embark on. This is mostly made possible due to each chapter's sandbox being randomly generated every time you load into it. So even if you play the same chapter again, the islands and the wind pattern won't be the same. I can see this very easily allowing players to experience hours upon hours of entertainment. Now where it falls short is that the wind can be too much of a factor at times, and the story is too repetitive, with you essentially doing the same thing in every chapter, and the storyline also not being very clear. The story really does leave it up to the creativity of the player. It gives you 5 paintings, 1 for each chapter, but that's basically it. There isn't any dialogue, there isn't any people that you meet. There are some texts, but they can tend to repeat themselves and seem really irrelevant to what is going on in the story. Now, my own understanding based on the limited information they revealed to us is that the people and the fish used to live side by side, but now the humans hunt and kill the fish. So after everything went dark in the storm, she didn't actually land on an island. It was all a dream with a message to respect the fish and respect the ocean. Then once you finish the game, she awakes from her dream and sails over to her family or her group. Of course, you may play the game and have a completely different understanding due to how vague the story really is. Now don't get me wrong, in some games this can be a good thing, but in this game I feel that the story mode is too loose and thus doesn't build up to a climax, but instead keeps you on a steady path, and then boom, you hit the climax of the story, and it is extremely underwhelming. Most of the good story games will give you things to find that add to the story. If this game made it more worthwhile to travel to the various islands in each chapter and really explore the sandbox they drop you into by adding to the story at each island that you visit, then this game would be more worth of a buy. But it doesn't do that, so it's not. For these reasons, I give this game a 70% and ultimately discourage you from purchasing this game unless you do more research and know for sure that you'll like it. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you didn't already, don't forget to like and subscribe with notifications on. Hope you all have a great day.